Alrighty, so thank you again for coming today. So today I will not be talking about a collector as we usually do. Instead, our topic this week comes by request of our wonderful volunteer, June. It's very fitting because you may or may not know that today is Arbor Day. So happy Arbor Day. And you may know it is a holiday dedicated to planting trees. In the United States, it is celebrated on the last Friday in April. Though the actual planting of trees varies depending on where you are, and obviously when the weather is appropriate to be planting your trees. But June had asked me to look a little bit into the history of Arbor Day, and so I'll share a little bit of that with you today. So the first Arbor Day actually predates our US holiday by quite a bit. It actually predates the existence of the United States by more than 200 years. So the first documented tree planting festival was held in 1569 in the Spanish village of Mondoñedo. It was organized by a city official named Don Luis de Luaces y Labrada, who bought an area of land for public use. And on it, he planted a grove of lime and horse chestnut trees. And each neighbor was required to plant 3 trees. And the spot is called the Alameda de los Remedios. And an alameda is a public walkway or promenade shaded by trees. And this is actually a picture of that grove from a later postcard, obviously. And it's considered one of the oldest alamedas in Spain. And so after the planting, he invited everyone to a big banquet there under the trees to celebrate. And so it is considered the first Fiesta del Arbol, or Festival of the Tree. And it's commemorated in a monument and plaque in the village that you can see today. So there is another Spanish village, Villanueva de la Sierra, that claims to be the first modern Arbor Day in 1805. It's said that a local priest, Don Ramon Vacas Roxo, believed that trees were very important for the health, hygiene, decoration, nature, environment, and customs of the area. And he wanted to combine planting trees with a festival atmosphere. So the festival began on Carnival Tuesday with the ringing of church bells. The priest and other clergy, teachers, and citizens planted the first tree together, which is reported to be a poplar tree. And they continued to plant trees and celebrate with merriment and dancing for 3 days. And it said he also drafted a manifesto in defense of trees that he sent around to surrounding towns to spread the love and respect for nature. And also he encouraged them to obviously plant more trees. And I have no evidence, but I like to imagine he looked a little bit like this guy. So a memorial to that first festival was put up in 2005 to mark its 200th anniversary. So the American Arbor Day is credited to J. Sterling Morton. In 1854, he moved from Michigan to Nebraska City, Nebraska, where he was an editor for the Nebraska City News. And it said that he and his wife were surprised and disheartened by the lack of trees in the area when they moved there. And they believed that planting more trees was important to encourage development of the Nebraska Territory, which became a state in 1867. And Morton had held a number of political offices. And in January of 1872, he attended the annual meeting of the Nebraska State Board of Agriculture and proposed to set aside a day to encourage and celebrate the planting of trees. He said that other holidays repose upon the past, so like celebrating independence or former presidents, but Arbor Day proposes for the future. And it was approved. So on April 10th of that year, they held the first Arbor Day, and approximately 1 million trees were planted in Nebraska in a single day, which is pretty impressive. So it became an official state holiday in 1885, and it was placed on April 22nd, which was Morton's birthday. And he would eventually become the U.S. Secretary of Agriculture under President Grover Cleveland, and he helped to set up other forest reserves. So another figure involved in early Arbor Day efforts was named Birdsley Northrup. He was a pastor who grew up in Connecticut, and at that time, most of the trees in that state had been cut down, either for farming or the charcoal industry. And one source said that might be why he really valued trees. And he himself describes a strong memory of planting a maple tree in his front yard with his mother and basically growing up alongside that tree. He became involved in public school administration. And he also worked with Connecticut's Board of Agriculture to try to reestablish the state's forests. With his help in 1876, the state made Arbor Day an official holiday. And that year was the 100th anniversary of US independence. So people were urged to plant trees in honor of the American Revolution, and Morton awarded prizes to teachers and students who planted at least 5 trees. So in 1883, at a meeting of the American Forestry Association, he proposed recognition of Arbor Day, and he also helped to spread the idea around the US and around the world by visiting Japan, Australia, and Canada. So in the early 1900s, President Teddy Roosevelt was urged to take action against forest destruction. And on April 15th, 1907, he issued the Arbor Day Proclamation to the school children of the United States. And in it, he addresses the importance of trees for the future, saying, "It is well that you should celebrate your Arbor Day thoughtfully, for within your lifetimes, the nation's need of trees will become serious. We of an older generation can get along with what we have, though through growing hardship, but in your full manhood and womanhood, you will want what nature so bountifully supplied, and man so thoughtlessly destroyed." So by the 1920s, Arbor Day had been made a holiday in every state, but it wasn't until 1970 that it was recognized as an official national holiday by President Nixon. So tree planting celebrations are now held around the world and go by many names. There are Arbor Days, Arbor Weeks, Tree Days in a number of languages. You might guess where Maple Leaf Day is celebrated. In Japan, it's called Greenery Day. There are a lot of national tree planting days in countries. There's a New Year of Trees in Israel, Festival of Trees in India. And these celebrations are held all throughout the year, as you can see here. Usually they're tied to local climate and growing seasons. And you can see on this map that it's celebrated across the globe, and I'm sure this is not comprehensive. These are just the countries I could find. And those participants are responsible for planting millions of new trees each year. So happy Arbor Day. And if you are able to plant a tree today, I hope you get some time outside to appreciate all that they do for us. So thank you for listening, and thank you again, June, for this topic. It's very interesting to look into.